Perfect. So we're recording today's class. This isn't going to be shared publicly. It's only for like by request if people want it. So if you're interested in the recording, please drop your email into the chat window and I will get you a copy of this particular recording. All right. So we're just taking a few minutes. Again, we have a lot of details to cover. Today's class will definitely be a solid hour and a half. I will try to have us wrapped up by like 4:45. However, with art, I never want to rush you. So I want you to always go at your own pace in these classes. Sometimes folks take longer than others, and I respect that. And I want you to go as slow as you want. However, I want to make sure that I'm getting to all the details to give you all of the right tools and techniques in order. You can always go back and reference it. This is gorgeous. I love this color. It's so vibrant, absolutely beautiful. All right, perfect. So I'm going to keep an eye on the clock just to time box us here. I'm going to give everyone another just solid minute just to get the grass in. And if you wanted to add more grass as you go, you absolutely can do that. But again, this is just a background element. And I tried to stay below, like within the 1/3 area. I kind of came up a little bit, but that's okay. But it's better to have some like loose texture of grass kind of creeping up to make it look a little bit more natural.
Megan, how did you get the brown?
I did not do the brown yet.
What? Oh, oh.
Does it look like it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. No, I just did like, I don't have a ton of paint. So it could be the lighting. I did very gentle grass blades. So maybe it looks darker in between because they're not totally filled in.
Okay, that's what it is. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll hold it closer so you can see. I did gentle like sweeps.
Oh, it's not solid.
It's not totally solid.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. No worries. All good. And it's so funny as an artist, you learn where to like let go and to try something different. So, you know, typically we can paint a grass blade totally solid in color. However, it's okay to paint a couple lighter grass blades to give it a little bit more of a translucent effect. Maybe it creates movement to you as an artist. But it's absolutely up to you. And it's always an experiment. And with art, I'm always going to encourage you to be open-minded with what you're doing and don't be so critical, but be in the moment of doing what you know you like or trying something new someday. But being courageous and fearless is a fun part. And I'm here to repeat that every class for us because we all need it, even myself. I love it. All right, so I'm going to put my paint covers back on these paints because heavens forbid my bracelet gets paint on it or something. All right, and for anybody that wants to add in this like brownish red, I don't know if I sent in, I don't think I gave you the darker reds, but if anybody wants to like make a brown and kind of tuck a little brown in, you could make a brown. I'll show you how to do that really quick. We did not do this in the last class, but I'll show you what it is. To make brown, it's red, yellow, and blue equal parts. So I'm just going to take like a little bit of the red, a little bit of the yellow, and a little bit of the blue. And I'll just make a little bit of brown. And I'm just going to kind of tuck it in between some of these grass blades. Not like filling in between the lines, but kind of just adding a little bit more of that nature color to the background. So if anybody wants to try this with me, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I want to offer it as a detail for your consideration. And I'm using red, blue, and yellow. Just getting the colors here. My little trifecta. And the more yellow you add, the more brown it will be as you're doing this trifecta here. So I'm going to mix these together and I'll show you what it looks like. I think I have a lot of blue. I might take some of that out. You're never going to get the mix perfect the first time unless you are a wizard. But I know I don't ever get it right. It's pretty dark brown. So what I could do is you can always add a little touch of white to this if you want it to be a little lighter, or if you want it to be more red, you could add a little bit more red and a little bit of white. A little white's going to go a long way. So I'll add a spot just to show you. It's like a very dark grayish brown right now, but I'm going to add just a teeny dot of white. So it's still fairly dark in color. And I'm just going to grab a little swipe of this and mix it in. And one of the things I like demonstrating in my classes is holding patience to find the right colors. You can always settle, and that's fine, but I'll always show you what it's like to just take a minute, find the right color. I could make this a little bit more red, but I'm just going to roll with this. This is like a true milk chocolate brown that I've come up with. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly kind of tuck it in as just like a little accent detail in between some of these. And if folks don't like this, that's okay. I'm just going to tuck it in a little bit here and there. If you wanted to change brushes, I'm using just a light sweep. I'm not doing a ton of paint all over, but I am just doing a little bit of Mother Nature just coming through. And you could just do, with barely any paint on your brush, you could do some like brown brush strokes kind of tucked in, or you could kind of go in between on the black. I'm just being a little abstract, having a little fun tonight. But that's what just a little bit of brown is tucked in. Again, we're doing a lot of other layers on top of this. So I'm not worrying about this too much, but my goal is just to have a little bit of this brown tucked in here and there. And I actually like the brown. I think it's a nice add. And we did not do this brown on Thursday. So you can see I'm just using a small brush. I'll bring it a little closer. It kind of looks like cattails a little bit, but you can use your own artist's imagination here and filling this in. So it's just a little bit of brown. I like it. All right. So I'll give everyone a minute just to play with that. And then I'll transition us to the flowers. We'll jump right in. So I'll keep an eye on the clock. 3:21 Eastern. I'll give everyone till 3:22. And clean your brushes once you're done with that brown. Maybe use your napkin or paper towel just to kind of wipe it off. Wipe off the water from cleaning it. And I want you to find, as you transition, and you have plenty of time, we're not at our full minute yet, but find one of your smallest brushes for our next step, for the detail. And I'll tell you and guide you on what those brushes will be in just a minute. But I'll give everyone a minute just to play with the brown. Maybe you're touching up some of your green grass. Any of that goes. You're enjoying a coffee, tea, or beverage, feel free to take a sip. I'm drinking a seltzer. All right. So I'll look around the room. Folks should be kind of ready to jump in, but if anybody needs to take a minute to pause just to kind of work on these details, feel free. But there's a lot of flowers we have to add, so we're going to jump right into it. All right. So what we're going to do is find one of your smallest brushes. In the brushes that I send, there are small gold numbers about halfway down. So if you have the 2/0 brush, if you have a 1 or a 2, grab one of those brushes for this next step. And we're first going to make some orange kind of poppy styled flowers. So this will be quite fun. We're going to use our yellow and our red. So about a thumbnail's worth of yellow. So a small dollop. And what we're going to do is the proportions from red to yellow is it's it's like 75% yellow with a touch of red. So I have my yellow and I'm going to get my red out. Everybody, yeah, everybody has the regular red, I think, yeah. And then I'm going to add just a tiny touch of red right there. And I'm going to use this tiny brush and I'm going to mix these colors together. And I'm coming up with like an orange poppy color. So fun. Nice. I think I had too much red, but that's okay. This is a very vibrant orange, kind of like I'm in Florida or something. All right. And you can always lighten this if you want to. If anybody wants to add a little white, we are going to be creating a lighter tone of this orange in just a minute, but we're going to first do some outlines. So as folks are mixing their orange, I want you to spin your brush on the side to have a nice fine point. And what we're going to do is we're going to add 3 or 4 poppies kind of all over. And I want you to consider the scale. And the scale is how big these are. So my first poppy is going to be over here. And I'm going to do an outline for the shape of the poppy. You can do some longer lines. This is really just to say, this is where it's going to be. And then we'll bring this poppy to life with some true petals. And it does not have to be perfectly even. Actually, the more uneven you make your outline, the better. And one thing that participants ran into in the last class is the oranges, the yellows have a hard time showing up on the black. So use quite a bit of paint on your brush. Otherwise, it's going to seem like it might seem like it's see-through. So you might have to do a couple coats of this, but go ahead and fill in this object. So what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing a little paint at a time after I do my outline, and I'm just going to fill this in, and we'll make it look like a flower after. We're just doing a nice outline to hold space for the structure. And you can always change the shape. And we're going to do different styles of poppies. We're going to do some that are open, some that are kind of bent over, different things. So I'm inspired to add a little one down here. Just a little one. So our goal is to have an array of just orange poppies. I would say between 3 and 5 different sizes across the left to the right and the top to the bottom. So I'll show you different ways of painting these. So this is kind of a head-on kind of style poppy right here. And this one, I don't know where I'm going to put the head or like the middle of it. So I'm just going to leave this little one here. But this one over here is going to have a leaf that's kind of going to be kind of flopping down a little bit. So I'm going to do the top edge, which is a little wavy. And then I'm pretending like there's a petal here. So I'm going to round it a little bit there. And then I'm going to pretend like there's another petal right here. Ooh. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of a double outline, which is kind of fun. And I might connect those. So I'm doing outlines just to kind of be playful with my form. And then I'm going to do another big petal kind of hanging down and open. And this might come up a little higher to meet it. And you can always change the position, but this is a petal that's hanging down. Maybe it comes down a little lower. You can decide. Maybe come up a little higher over here. But you're going to fill this in entirely. And I'm just going back and filling it in. You can always change the shape of your poppies, making it have a natural edge. So instead of it being totally round, do a little ups and downs, make it look a little bit more natural, like there's an actual bend in the ridge. And I'm going to fill in this lower petal, and we're going to use white to bring this to life. Just take your time. You can see I'm kind of creating a little bit of a different shape. And when you look at a field of wildflowers like this, or you look into a garden, you'll see flowers that are all in the same family, as I like to say, but they all look a little different because they're not all straight on, right? So that's one of the things that we're practicing in tonight's class. So I'm going to add, again, pick an odd number, and we're just doing some of these. You might need a second coat, so just take your time. And again, I'm doing a balance. So for me to feel balanced from a color perspective, I'm going to add one more little orange one over here. Going a little poppy crazy tonight. And the other thing I'll mention is that with tonight's class, we're going to do a ton of different flowers. I will always encourage you to do whatever flowers that you want. So if you want to do more poppies than this, go for it. But as you can see with the inspiration, there is a lot of different kinds of flowers. So I'm going to lead you through 3 or 4 or 5 of those. But the step that we're on now is we're getting a base coat of orange just for these poppies. And so I'm going to kind of go back to the first flower, if it's dry, working on it, and do a second coat. And then we're going to let these dry, and we'll come back to them and bring them to life in just a minute. But where you can, do a second coat of your poppies. Remember, take a deep breath. You're having fun. This paint, if you put a lot of thick layers on, it will stick better. Like I just added a good solid thick layer of paint right there, and it stuck right to it. So that's why the first layer is really helpful, because it kind of gets you going a little bit. But I know that folks in the last class were having a hard time with doing multiple coats. So I should think it just takes a little bit for it to dry, which is okay because acrylic dries really quickly, typically. But we'll let things dry, and we'll continue to shift. So I'm going really simple with my poppies today. I did 2 kind of bigger ones, and I did 3 other smaller ones. So I'm going to give a minute for those to dry. If anybody is doing layering like I am, and you need a minute for them to dry, one of the things you can do with me if you need a minute is you can take a little bit of, if anybody has extra green paint like I do, I'm going to take a little bit of the green that I've mixed and a tiny bit of yellow. And I'm going to just do stems kind of coming down from the bottom of these poppies, grounding them into Mother Nature below. But the stems are not just going to be green grass like here. It's going to be yellow and green mixed together, which is kind of fun and vibrant. So what I'm going to do is I'll take a scoop of this green that I had extra from. I'm going to mix it with a little bit of yellow. It's going to make it just a tone different. Ooh, we're getting lime green, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't like this color, you don't have to use it. But just try to make it a little bit different. If you don't want to, too, that's fine. But use your fine brush. And we're doing very thin stems. So from the bottom of the flower, come down and connect it. Now, if you wanted to do thicker stems, you can, but I'm going nice and easy. They don't have to be perfectly straight. That one had a little wiggle to it. Could change the direction. And it can kind of just tuck in behind. It could be as thin or as thick as you wish. Now we're just grounding them. And you can take a minute just to do a nice clean stem. And now they're no longer floating objects, right? They're connected. So it's trusting the process. We will make these orange objects look like flowers, I promise. But we're killing time here and we're letting our flowers dry. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
You show yours up because mine, the flowers have like the black is still coming through after I've done it second time.
Yeah, So folks in the last class said the same thing. You just need to add more paint. You just you may need to let it dry for a minute or wait for the touch of like, see, I just touched mine and I just put my finger, but I think letting it dry and then wait, once it dries entirely, the orange paint will stick better on top.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It happened last class too. We were doing layers really quickly and it wasn't sticking that well. So we will, what we'll do is we'll make good use of the time. Mine is still wet, which means yours are probably still wet. So I'm going to let mine dry. I know they need another second coat or even another coat after that. So we'll just let them dry for a minute and we'll pivot to another flower color now. The next one that we'll do white because it's really quite simple and beautiful. And we're going to continue to layer flowers in this scene. So it's an evolving process, but it's going to be very rewarding. So again, I'll show you how to bring our other orange flowers to life after, but let's transition, if you're comfortable as a group, to white, and this will allow our orange flowers to dry. And I used about a thumbnail's worth of white right here. And don't hesitate to just check your body posture, stretch your shoulders back, maybe stretch your neck from side to side. It's important to check in on ourselves along the way here. All right, now these white ones are nice and easy, which some of you are probably good to hear. And our approach today is like lots of flowers, lots of different styles and details. It may feel frustrating to some of you. Just take a deep breath and breathe through it. It is a new way of kind of practicing and embracing things. So you're going to do great no matter what, but just remember to be kind to you as you go through this. So I'm going to take one of my smaller brushes. Again, I'm using the smallest one that I sent you, whether that's the 2/0 fraction brush or the number 1. And I'm going to do a peppering of 3 to 5 smaller flowers, small white flowers, and these are going to have more of like a petaled edge. Now if you want to do like a little mini daisy, you could do that. Maybe I'll do that tonight. I'll do little petals and they're going to be smaller than these 2 big ones. So for me, I'm thinking about scale and size and placement. So for me, I have a big black spot over here. I'm going to do a couple of really cute little flower petals. And this is where you do what you're inspired to do, right? I might do a couple petals that are not like so big. When you paint flowers, they don't need to be head on, lots of full petals like that. Like they don't all need to be like that. They just need to kind of look like one another, right? There we go. And if you make them look a little unnatural, that's all right. Kind of lean back. This one might get a little bit bigger. I'm just making it nice and even. You can play with how the petals come out. You can have as many as you want. It's a little playful. Now some of these others, they might be a little smaller. And they don't have to be perfectly, again, even. Just take your time. I'll show you also, the flowers in the picture are more so like actual petals, like bigger petals. So I'll do a couple of those just to show you what those look like. They're just a little bit bigger of a single petal, kind of like a pansy kind of petal or an impatiens kind of petal. It's just a little bit bigger, kind of like that with a little bit of a separator. So these flowers, again, they can be anything you want them to be. That one kind of came out kind of funny, so I'm going to fix it, but it's okay to be like, I don't know what I just painted. You can always fix something. Always, always. And I may not like this one, so I might put these little tiny things coming off. Like I am really, ladies and gentlemen, it's cool sometimes to be in the moment. Look at that. I just turned that mess of a flower into something different. I was inspired to add these little things coming off. This is like a different kind of flower. So it's fun just to be playful. You can turn a happy accident into something cool if you want. So I was inspired just to kind of create my own little flower coming in here. These are just little hooks coming from the left and the right. So you can be playful, but what we're going for is we want all of our flowers to be a little different. So the orange poppy is going to be a little different than the white one. And the white one's going to be different than the pink one, kind of thing. So I'm going to just do an array of flowers. I'll just do another, maybe this is like a little clover to start, maybe a 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have these little long twirly guys coming off to the left and the right. I just created my own varietal. I should probably patent it. But it's kind of fun to experiment. It kind of looks like the details from a zinnia, the interior of a zinnia. I think that's where I'm inspired. So I'm going to do an odd number. So look, I have 4 white so far. I'm going to put a little one up here. So try to find a visual color balance. That's the other thing I want you to be mindful of today, is a balance of colored flowers. That will help the overall composition of your entire painting kind of keep it tied together. So it's quite fun. And I will show you how to add a gooseneck flower as well using the white if you're interested. There we go. And I'll add maybe a little dot of maybe orange or red on the interior of these white ones, but I don't need to do that right now. We want to do a solid coat of white. So take your time, and if you wanted to do a second coat of white, again, we're being patient and letting our orange dry. But I'm just going to do a nice solid coat of white in each of these so we can move on to the next flower. So you're going to have your own ideas of what you want to add and where. I encourage you to embrace those ideas. One of the things about being an artist that I talk about in these classes often is you doing you. If you have an idea, you go for it. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you're not doing the same thing as me. Trust me, it's not why we're here. We're here for you to enjoy this downtime, for you to practice your creativity and practice these painting skills. I'm going to make a little bit more orange, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to come in and do another coat here in just a minute. So we're going to let our white flowers dry, just as our others. I'm mixing a little bit more yellow, a little bit more red. And don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to smile. You're actually having fun. Clean off your brush if you're going to transition back to the orange. If you wanted to change brushes at any point, feel free to change brushes. Sometimes when we're just painting, we forget that we could actually switch the brush if we want to. So I'm here to remind you, if you wanted to switch your brush, you could at any point. You're going to know what brush feels good. But look at that. These orange flowers have dried. And I'm going to come in and do a second coat. And our flowers right now are all flat in color, means they're just a single color. We're going to come into each of these and add more depth, add more detail. So trusting the process, getting these base colors in, and then we'll bring them to life with a lighter tone and a darker tone. But it's good and very important to get the solid color first, or at least good enough. And then once we have mainly a solid color, we can start to evolve some of these objects and these shapes. But we want to make sure we have that true background color first. Do nice smooth brush strokes. You might need more coats. The orange and the yellow is tricky. If anybody's still having a hard time, I feel you. With black canvas, it typically could take a little longer, right? No worries. We're not here to stress. We're here to be patient and embrace the process. But if anyone has any questions along the way, do not hesitate to ask. I'm going to slowly just fill these objects in. And then one of the things that we can do while we're on orange right now is I'm going to take a little bit of my white and a little bit of this extra orange. And I'll show you how to make this a light orange color. And this will allow us to highlight some of the tips and the petals of our poppy. So I'm making a light orange color, which you can see here. So that's the regular orange. This is the lighter orange. And again, I'm using a smaller brush. And I'm going to start on this one here where I have a petal right here. So I'm going to outline kind of the top corner and the top of this petal. And it's going to start to come to life. This is light hitting the petal from above. There's another petal in here too. So you can see I'm creating, using this lighter line to create this petal in the foreground. So have fun, experiment a little bit with where you add a little bit of lightness. So it could be up on the tops. On the back side, you can to highlight the back edge of these petals of the poppy. You could, the lighter you make this, the more it will stand out. So I'll add a little bit more white to this so you could at least see it. But the more white that you add, the more it's going to stand out. And if you wanted to kind of slowly bring some of this down, you could, just to blend it into the orange. You could just do gentle sweeps of the lighter color coming down. There's a lot of different things you can do, but just gentle, soft sweeps of the lighter orange down to the darker orange. You can also do that from the top side. But play with where you add a little bit of brightness. Maybe down here, I have just a little bit of lightness on the bottom. And I'm just going to ever so slightly kind of pepper some of this down and in and around. And we're going to add centers, darker centers into these poppies, but play with this lighter orange, doing a little bit on the edging. This can be as abstract or as realistic as you want, but I'm just doing a little bit on the tops. You can always go back and get a little bit of your other orange if you want to kind of, if the other one is too light that you just put on, you can always kind of go back and kind of blend it in a little bit with the more of the base orange color. So it's okay to kind of pop back and forth from your light orange to your dark orange as you're adding in some of this lightness. That's what a lot of artists do. They kind of blend it in, they smudge it in around the edges to kind of, for you to get that right effect. So this is a really fun exercise to create a little bit of lightness. And for us to slow down and just to practice that together. And you can see that these petals are coming out. I can do a little bit of a lighter color here to really highlight the lip of this flower petal. Again, you can decide some of these details. Then I'm going to give everyone a couple minutes just to play with the orange, and then we'll transition but it's important for you to have the space to play with this. So this is one of the benefits of the areas of focus for today's class, is for you to play with where you can bring in lightness. And I'll probably use a little bit of this brown that I have to create a little bit of a center. So this center for this poppy is going to be black, and it's just going to be tucked in ever so slightly right in here. The center is just going to come in. It's going to be a little, it's not going to be a circle. It's just going to be a little long center right there. And then this one's just going to be tucked in. It's kind of a, could be an oval, like, but the dark center is, will help ground the flower. And it's up to you if you want to add a little bit of the center on any of these others. But again, I'm going to give you a few minutes to play. We also, in the last class, we used a red towards the center of these poppies to add a little bit of extra like shading. So the red was like our contrast. So if you want to use a darker contrasting color for the shading, I just put a little bit of red on my brush. I'm going to add a little bit of red on the interior. And if you want it to even be a little darker than this might be a little bit of a level 2 tip, but you can take a little bit of the red and a little bit of this like brownish color that we made and make like a more of a crimson, like darker red for the interior, like darker. There we go. You can, by some of the interior of these poppies, you can kind of create little lines. This is if we had like, 2 hours for like just these poppies, we could spend a lot of time here, but I'm giving you just a little bit of a glimpse on how to use darker and lighter colors to create depth of an object. So I could even make that a little darker if I wanted to, just to show you. See how I'm creating a little bit of depth? This is like the center. So I could do the same thing on any of these flowers, just to show this is the center. It's a little bit darker in here. Kind of, it allows you to kind of look in to the flower a little bit, which is kind of fun. So again, it's all playful, but at least you have a consideration there of how to use light colors on the edges on where the light is hitting it, and then where to use darker colors to create shade or shadows. And again, I mixed red and I had some of this brown from the grass area. I mixed those together to be this like darker red crimson color here. So I'm going to go ahead and put my cap on. I'll keep an eye on the clock. And what we'll do is we'll do our first show and tell in 2 minutes. I'll let folks play around with these poppies. I'm also going to get my green back out, and I'm going to kind of ground some of these white flowers with the green stems. So I'm going to do that, but I'll give everyone a minute just to kind of work on whatever detail that you have in front of you. But you can kind of lean back in your chair and focus on that for the next couple minutes. I'm going to go back to my green and do some stems kind of coming down. And you may be inspired to add, little bits of white cluster flowers here and there. I'll show you what that looks like with the pink. I'm going to do pink cluster flowers, but I want you to do whatever you want for your painting today. But we're going to continue to thoughtfully layer in many wildflowers. So I'll give everyone until it's 3:52. I'll give everyone a solid 2 more minutes. So at 3:54, we'll do our first show and tell, which is where I encourage folks to turn on your video and share your work off. If you don't want to, no judgment zone. You do not have to. However, we always love seeing how everyone's doing. I know other people on the call love to see others as well. And I had a recommendation or an idea from a student in the last class of creating a gallery for AARP Vermont of all of our work. And I love this idea because typically students like yourself are so curious on how other people might have done. So if you're interested in participating in this gallery, at the end of tonight's class, when you're done your painting, send me an email. So Megan@paintandsipvt.com, and Megan is Meagan. I will drop that in the chat now. But send me your artwork. And if you've done other classes with me, take a couple pictures and send me your others as well. Because I know that other folks like yourselves want to see how everybody's done over our many months together. So if you're comfortable sharing, I won't post any names with the photos. I will just post them as a general gallery. So I appreciate your consideration there. Always fun. And we're kind of taking a look at our orange flowers and our white flowers. And I'm inspired to put a little bit of an orange dot in the interior of my white flower. So just to ground these a little bit, and you could do a circle, you could do an oblong shape, anything you want. You might be inspired to add a little bit of fun detail. I'm apparently inspired to add a little fun detail. So anything you want, art is fun. We can't take it too seriously, but if you wanted to add a little bit of a yellow orange design on some of my whites, I don't know why, just is what came to me for tonight. And maybe I'll put a little bit of a brown dot in the middle of these white flowers now, since I just did a little bit of orange detail. It's always good just to kind of embrace what you want to do. All right, there, a little bit of a brown dot. I'm just going to ground these a little bit. And if I paint something I don't like, guess what? We can always change it. With acrylic paint, it's always layers upon layers. So just keep in mind, if you really paint something you don't like, you can always fix it. You can let whatever layer you did dry, go back in and cover it up. For me, I might come in and just modify some of these just a little bit with white paint covers white flower. Imagine that. So I'm just softly kind of fading in some of these colors. But you do you. I'm just kind of being a little playful. I'm kind of using the orange as a little bit of an accent, but I still want these flowers to be fairly white. So I'm kind of doing a subtle color tint to these, but I'm having fun. That's what the most important part is. All right, so we're at our 2+ minutes here. I'm going to transition us to doing the next step. We will come back later and do some white goosenecks, which are kind of like dotted friendly white flowers. We'll do that on top after. But let's switch to pink next. And before we do that, we'll take a minute to pause and do our first show and tell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my spotlight. I'm going to go to view in the top right-hand corner, and I'm going to go to gallery. And if anybody's interested in turning on your video or showing off your work, we would love to see how you're doing. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and flip those right around. All right, Miss Sharon, awesome. Kathy, lovely, excellent staggering of flowers and colors, ladies. Miss Lisa, beautiful. Kira, Miss Gail, very nice. Ooh, Melinda, great job with your edging. Miss Penny, very nice. Ooh, Miss Lucille, look at those petals up front. Very nice. And Miss Marie, oh, Marie, you nailed those. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Let's see. There's Miss Sally's. Nice. Looks good. Sally's got a lot of green grass. I like that. Miss Lucille. Hold it up a little higher. Oh, I love the green grass. Barbara, your grass is awfully happy. It has a lot of swagger to it. I like it. Can see the breeze rolling through. Let's see. Miss Regina, great job with the light oranges and the whites. Miss Gail, hold yours up a little higher. Let's see that. There we go. Very pretty. Miss Melinda, you nailed those oranges too. Awesome. Miss Lucille got those oranges. So isn't it fun playing, like being really thoughtful of like where you can put lighter colors to really highlight an edge or create that lighting effect? You all did wonderful. Miss Lucille and Regina, awesome. Okay, so I'll pause. If anyone has any questions, please let me know, but we're going to transition to the light pink next, just to be mindful of time. So light pink is red and white mixed together. You could do like equal parts if you wanted to. I'm going to start with a little bit of red, and I'm going to do 50-50. If I recall, I think it's more white than red, but we'll kind of play with it here. I'll go back and spotlight my video. There we go. And I so apologize, my lighting isn't perfect tonight. I'm not in my studio. Perfect. So I have red and white right here. I'm going to mix those together for pink. I'm going to put my paint caps back on my little paint containers here. And how about that? Nobody needs to fight opening up their paint containers anymore. These ones just screw right off. All right. So we're going to do pink flowers, and then we're going to do blue flowers for a little bit of a peel back behind the curtain. So one of the first pink flowers we're going to do, and I'm going to mix my pink together here while I'm talking. Ooh, this is like a baby little girl pink color. It's kind of fun. You can add a little bit more red to this if you want it to be a little bit more like magenta. Take the time to find the right pink for you. And if you don't want to do any pink flowers, you don't have to. You can use another color. But we're going to do our first stalk. And the first stalk that we're going to do, these are going to be, I'll show you in the picture, these stocky ones. So they kind of look like a lupin a little bit, but I'll show you how to paint them. They're very easy. So
Excuse
first,
me, what number brush are you using for this?
I'm using the same tiny brush. Absolutely. Yep, small brush the whole class basically. But if you want to alternate, you all have brand new brushes. So the nice thing is you could use, I think in the last class, I used a brand new number 4 because the tip was just perfect. So if you wanted to use one of your other brushes and it had a nice fine tip, you could do that too. So we're going to put in a pink stocky flower, and I might put in, like, I did one last class. I might put in another, but I'll start over here. So find where you want the height, placement of like left to right where you want it. Mine's going to go right here. And the height of mine is going to be probably right about here. So based on where you want to put it, find the top, and you're going to do a teardrop shape to get started. This is the top of the stalk. So that's the top of my flower, and it's a teardrop shape. And what you're going to do is on the sides of it, you're going to do smaller teardrops. So these are going to be small, and they're going to be one on the left and one on the right. And they're going to kind of facing outwards. So you can see how the teardrop on the left is kind of pointed to the left, and the one on the right is kind of facing to the right. Now, the style that I did last class is there's a little bit of black space in between these. They're not touching. If you want yours to touch, that's absolutely fine. You can do it any way that you want, but this is just for consideration. So you're going to take your time, and you're going to do a little teardrop on each side as you work down, alternating from the left to the right. And they're going to be a little smaller at the top, and you can make them a little bit bigger as you work your way down. These are little nodes for our flowers. And I like that they have a little point on the end. If you don't want the point, you don't have to. Take a couple deep breaths and enjoy the detail work. You're all doing something for yourself, which is so incredibly important. I'm so glad you're here with us tonight. Painting is a great way to think about other things or not think at all, right? I try to keep our classes simple sometimes, but it can be very relaxing and very meditative if you allow yourself just to be present. So as you get down, you can stop this whenever you want, but you can also keep going. I'm going to layer on top of some of the grass here. And I want you as the artist to kind of lean back in your chair and you figure out how far down you want to put this. I talk about mindfulness a lot in these classes. I want you to be mindful of how big you want something to be or where you want to put it. Those are all values and techniques and things we talk about in every class. Because if you take time to think about placement before you do something, imagine you're going to be a little happier at the end of the day here. Versus like, why did I put that there? And it takes practice to slow down and think about what you want to do. But I'm here to allow us to practice that together. I love this little flower. I'm inspired, ladies and gentlemen, to just do another one over here. And this one's going to be a little bit of a bend. It's going to have a little bit of a swagger to it. And we're going to do some pink flowers too. But I'm inspired just to add another one over here on the edge, on the other side. I'm feeling it. And if you don't want to do another one, you don't have to. I am going to show you how to do some pink tiny flowers too with this color. Because remember, we're going for a balance, a good balance of color with our pink. Don't forget to breathe. Sometimes we forget to breathe when we paint. Breathe in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. There, this one might just turn a little bit. Let's see if I can get it to do what I want it to. And if not, it's okay. There we go. Yeah, that one's turned just a little bit. It's fun. You can change the position, turn them right around. If you push and apply a little pressure on your brush, you're going to get that shape. So again, I'll show you up close. I have spacing in between these. We're actually going to bring these little flowers to life. We're going to bring in a little bit of a darker color. We're going to bring in that red as an undercoat, which will be quite fun. We could either do a red or a lighter color. We did both in the last class, but I'll show you how to add a few pink flowers first. So I'm going to do kind of a 5-petaled flower. Again, we're doing all different types. That's what kind of makes this look like a natural scene. So I'm going to do a few dainty, delicate little 5-petaled flowers. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do them in clusters. So again, you don't need to do this stuff if you don't want to. But anything that you want to do, I'm going to do a little cluster of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm thinking visually, where do I need a little bit more pink? Well, I could put a little bit more here. So maybe I'll do a little cluster of 5 right there. Maybe I'll do this as a little cluster of 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I think I need maybe a little pink one up here. And then you can see I have some good black space. This black space in the flame flowers is good because we're going to add some blue flowers too to really mix up the concept. But I'm going to add a couple more. Maybe I'll do one more cluster over here. So visually, I might put it like up here. And you could do bigger flowers, like 5-petaled flowers. I'm having fun with the dainty flowers tonight. And I'll do another little cluster of 3 maybe. Let's see how this goes. Yep. But again, lean back in your chair and say, what do I need and where? And now I feel like I need just like one more little one up here. I'm like, it's all about a balance visually for me. All right. So I'm going to just take a minute and let those dry. And I'm going to show you how to add, you can either do, maybe we'll do a lighter tone on top of the pink, stalks. This is a really easy step that you can try with me. If you want to. So this is another depth example. So we're using a lighter tone of a base object to bring an object to life, to highlight where the sun is coming in, right? So what I'm going to do is I just grab my white. I'm going to take a tiny little kind of dollop of white, and I'm just going to put it next to my pink so I can kind of grab from my pink and make a nice light color. Just putting my cap back on my paint. And I'm going to take a little dollop of my pink that's left over. I'm going to mix it in with my white right on the edge of my plate, just for a lighter tone. This is like turning into a soft pink color. I actually need a little bit more white. It's not light enough. So a little bit of that pink pigment goes a long way. So I need a little bit more white for it to be what I want it to be. Just a little bit. And what we're going to do with that is on the top side of every node, you're going to do a thin line. You're going to accent the top side of every node with this light pink. There we go. It's getting a little lighter. And I'm so glad we recorded tonight's class, because tonight's class is going to be a little bit different than Thursdays, which is so fun. And I do have the Thursday recording available. It's actually on my YouTube channel, which is paintandsifvt.com, or sorry, not .com, but paintandsifvt. And you can see that video posted there. But you can find the top edge of each of these nodes, and I'm going to do a little line. And I'll show you what that looks like a little closer. So simple. You all can do this. This is just going to bring these flowers to life just a little bit. And this is optional. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But this is an easy detail that you could add. And then you can pick one side of that upper node, and you can see what the difference is. It's just it's a little detail, but I like it quite a bit. Now try not to dip your arm into the paint or your finger. This acrylic paint, if you get it on your clothes, it will stain your clothes unless you get it out immediately. So I'm being very careful to not get it on my dress today. All right. So I'm going to do this other one over here. And then if you wanted to add a little bit of the lighter pink to any of your smaller pink clustered flowers, you may. And you can, we're going to ground those pink cluster flowers into the earth below as well. So we'll do the green stem. I'm not quite there yet, but we'll take our time. And the lines on top of these pink nodes, it does not have to be thick. Some of mine are thick, some of mine are thin. You do whatever one you want. It's kind of fun to have a mix of both. It kind of makes it look a little bit more natural. Each node isn't lying perfectly flat. Bring it a little closer. You can see some of these details. Really fun. And I might just do like a little bit of this light pink just on some of these flowers, these little ones, just kind of doing a little dot here or there. You don't need a lot. It's fun to see two tones. And if you are taking your time and you are not doing this light pink detailed step yet, don't worry. Go at your own speed. I know I've mentioned that before, but please always continue to go at your own speed. I'm cleaning my brush well because I'm going to connect these little pink flowers to the ground. And we're going to add blue flowers next as a group. If anyone has any questions, let me know, but you're all doing phenomenal. I hope you're enjoying this. And again, a friendly reminder, we are continuing the AARP Vermont paint classes through the end of the year. The September dates, registration has not opened yet. It will open soon. It is September 8th and September 11th. So keep an eye out on the aarp.org/Vermont events page, and you can keep an eye on that registration. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this green that I have for my stems, and I'm going to ever so gently, I love this, connecting these small little flowers to the ground here. And if you want to add a couple small leaves, you can. This is where you kind of just do what comes to you as you're creating the scene. I'm just adding a couple little ones because I was inspired to. We didn't add a ton of leaves at this step in the last class, but everybody does things a little bit different at different times. We are going to add a lot of leaves down below. You can add little lines for like little leaves. You can alternate from the left to the right. But most importantly, we are connecting each of our flowers. It's connected to the earth. And any way you want to get there is good. You can add little leaves. Kind of like adding a couple little tiny leaves with these small clusters. It's kind of cute. I didn't do that in the last class. I wasn't inspired in the last class to do that. And you likely have your own ideas of what you're incorporating and where. So you do you. I'm just going to tuck in a few small leaves, tiny leaves, teeny tiny. And I'm looking around, making sure all of my flowers are connected. And it's coming along quite well. And you can see we're being really thoughtful, again, at what flower at a time, kind of doing it evenly across from the left to the right. And really well-balanced range of colors. So if you're inspired to do purple next, you can do purple. I'm going to do blue flowers next. And I will show you also how to do a little butterfly. Someone in the last class wanted to do the butterfly in the sky. But we're doing great on time. So what we'll do is our next step, I'll give everyone I'll just give you all a full minute just to play with the pink. Maybe look at what leaves you have. And then we'll transition to blue as our next. So again, don't forget to check your posture. If you need to go to the bathroom or go get a cup of water, I'll give everyone 2 full minutes here just to take a few minutes for yourself before we do the blue. So if you need to take a little break or like stretch your back, grab a drink. We'll start the blue flowers in 2 minutes. So at 4:19, we'll do the blue. And as we're taking a break, if anyone has any questions or if anyone needs any help with something you're working on, you're welcome to unmute and ask for assistance. Or Megan, I have this blob. How can I fix it? I answer all types of questions. Please let me know how I can help you. Maybe look around, see if you want to add any more detail anywhere else. It's always fun to have this downtime, this free time, just to make any adjustments. It's always fun to play with colors. Fun to play with light and dark. That's one of the reasons why I chose this inspiration for tonight, was for people just to take a little bit of time and experiment with these details. Because sometimes we don't always have the time or the chance to do it in other classes. We have a little bit of time. You certainly have time after the class to make any refinements. But it's fun building time in these classes to try as well.
I always marvel at how smooth your lines are. I don't know if I use too much paint or not enough paint or not enough water, but my lines are never smooth. They're always short and clumpy.
Have you tried spinning your brush on your plate, Kira, to kind of
Yeah.
manage the amount of paint that's on your brush?
Yeah.
It's tricky. It just takes, I don't know what it is. I try to for my lines, I try to have a good amount of paint, especially for the outline. And I try to be open-minded to the fact that like the edging, it doesn't have to be like perfectly soft or perfectly round. It's just, it is what it is. But I think more paint the better. But a smooth paint, surface kind of thing, as smooth as possible. And sometimes you might need to do a second coat, or I kind of go back over something to like, if it's clumpy, I kind of work it back and forth, like left, right, if it's clumpy.
Yeah, I
So
always tend to, it's like the brush kind of drags across the plane
yeah,
versus, being really smooth.
yeah. This paint's a lot thicker, so it's probably a little more challenging. So I think it's embracing the clumps, Kira, as long as you're getting the right colors, right?
Yeah,
I don't
basically.
know. I guess that's one way of looking at it, right? Isn't that funny? Oh, goodness gracious. All right. So we're at our 2 minutes. We'll continue to work our way through. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean my brush. I was playing with my oranges a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and clean my brush, and we're gonna do our blue flowers next, which are gonna be so beautiful. And you can pick any size flower that you want. You can repeat another flower that you have here, doesn't matter. But everyone has this darker blue. So if you are attending classes in the future, I have 2 types of blues that I have to share. I have a phthalo blue, which is a darker blue, and I have like a lighter sky blue. I gave everyone this phthalo blue for the Sunday class today. And you can put a small dollop of this on your plate. And I am going to mix this with a little bit of white. So I'm using that still, like I did like a half a thumbnail worth of this, but I'm going to use a little bit of white as well. So I'm going to mix 50, really. And I'm doing those right over here. But mix a blue that you like. You want it to be like a little lighter, because if it's a dark blue, it's not going to show up that great. So find a blue that you enjoy. Again, if you wanted to do purple, you could mix red and blue together and make purple flowers. And adding a little bit of white is good if you wanted to. Oh, but that's a beautiful blue. Ooh, wow, so pretty. I'm going to start here. This is a little dark, but if I have to lighten it, I will. Actually, I am going to lighten it. I like it a lot. I'm just going to lighten it just a teeny bit. So again, it's just being patient with the process. None of us will ever mix, unless you're a wizard again, the right color at the right time. You just have to kind of be patient and get it right for you. So let's see here. White paint. A little bit more. Perfect. And I'm going to do in the picture, there's like the blue stocky flowers. I might do one of those because I really like those little stocky flowers. And I might do little flowers as well. So I'm going to take the same approach that I did for the pink to the blue. I'm going to do one or two little blue stock flowers, and then I'm going to do some little blue flowers too. You don't have to do that. You could do like blue asters. You could do blue anything. So take your own approach for this. But I'm inspired to, I might do a little bit of the blue over here. So I'm going to start, again, I'm going to do blue stock over here, and it's going to kind of bend in between these two flowers. So you can think about placement, right? And I'm doing little teardrops on the left and on the right. And this is overlapping one of my stems. So that's okay. Okay to overlap things. This is a garden and flowers overlap from many perspectives. And this one's kind of bending a little bit. I kind of like that I'm squeezing this one in right here because it wants to be here. Kind of making sure I'm right in between these two. Again, you can manage the placement. I'm going over a little bit more to the left to create that bend. These are little teardrop shapes. I'm doing little points on the ends. I'm leaving a little bit of black space in between. Again, that's just like a fun technique that I'm using tonight. If you wanted to connect these, a lot of people in the last class did. Feel free to do that. Doesn't matter. If you wanted to do like a green stalk for these to climb up, you could do that. There's a little bit of a blue flower. So fun. And I'm going to add one more just to be courageous here. I'm going to add one kind of going off the page over here. So it's okay to have flowers kind of come off the pages. So I'm going to go all the way over here, and this one's going to bend down and around. It's going to kind of be bending off the page. So I'm kind of creating a little bit of an illusion that is bending. You can always change the sides of these nodes. And find a consistent shape that works for you, just like tree branches. If you've ever painted a tree, it's just finding a consistent shape that works for you and just go with that. I'm just going to have this bend down ever so slightly. I'm keeping some space in between this pink flower, so I just did a little bit of a gentle bend and turn, which is fine. But I wanted that blue balance, right? From the left to the right. And then I'm going to tuck in some cute little blue flowers kind of in here. So again, I want blue in all my little spots just to, because I want to appreciate each flower for what it is. And they're all kind of talking to each other nicely here. And I'm going to do little blue flowers like I did these pink ones. I love these little pink ones. They're so cute. I'm going to just do a couple of 5-petaled blue cluster flowers all over. And if there's 6 petals, it doesn't matter. But maybe I'll just do one that's a little bigger. You can always change your brush. Always change your brush. Your petals don't always have to be the same size. Your flowers can be as big or as small as you want them to be. But again, I'm going to be really quite simple and find a nice balance. Now, today's class could take well over 2 hours, ladies and gents, which I'm sure you're thinking about right now. So what we're going to do for the remaining time together is we'll do these blue flowers. I'll show you how to add in some of the white goosenecks, which is really fun. And then we're going to do some green leaves kind of tucked in, which will really give a more of an earthy, like engage it from an earthy perspective. So it's going to be really fun. But now I'm just figuring out my blues. Where else do I want to tuck in another little blue flower? How about right here? And it's okay to layer. Maybe over here. And you could keep going as the artist. You could keep layering in a lot more flowers. In the picture, this, there's a lot more in here, right? But we're just getting started. So there's only so much we can do in an hour and a half or 2-hour class, right? So I'm here to get you started. You're here to have fun. And I hope you're enjoying this so far. So I have an array of blue. I have 2 blue stalks and I have a couple of little blue flowers. I'm going to let those dry. I don't need a second coat on the blue because it's stuck really well. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of white. I'm going to do that, a little bit of the light blue outline on the top of these nodes, just like I did before. And I'll remind you how to do that if you'd like to do it with me. So to make the light blue, I took a small dollop of the white and I put it kind of near the blue, not on top of it. And I'm going to take just a little bit of light blue and I'm going to mix it with the white. A little bit of the pigment of color will go a long way in a dollop of white. And I want it to be lighter, so I'm being mindful of how much blue I added to that. And let me tell you, a little blue went a long way. I'm going to spin my brush in a nice fine point. Again, if you need to switch, you can. And I'm going to do a light blue outline on the top of each of these nodes. And this is really going to stand out. It's going to be beautiful. Very nice. And take your time with these details. Do not feel rushed. You have all the supplies you need to continue this work after tonight's class. Tonight's class was recorded, so if you need to come back and see how things are going, you can always come back at any time. And you can see that highlighting detail really brings out that as an object. So I'm going to repeat that on my second blue stalk. Taking my time. Don't forget to breathe. And I might do a little bit of an outline on some of these petals. It's always fun adding even a couple little dots of a lighter color into a flower. Little blue flowers get a little bit of light blue love too. So fun. I'm gonna bring this closer so you can see. You can see in my orange flowers, I added that dark red to create that shading. And if you wanted to, you could always add, we don't really have time in today's class, but I'll show you a quick demonstration. For these nodes, we have that base color of pink. We have that the lighter color on top. If we had all the time in the world, you could take a darker pink or red tone and add it on the underside of an object. And I'll show you what that looks like just so you can see it. I have a little bit of this darker red. I'm going to put it on the underside just so you can see what it looks like. See how I did a little bit of red on the underside? this helps create shading or a shadow on the underside of the object. And maybe on the right here. So I'll show you this with just the pink and the light. And then over here, this has the red on the underside. So there's a lot you can do if you have all the time in the world. So for the pink flowers, you could do a line of red. And even for the blue, you could do a darker blue. So this is the 3 tones to create depth. I teach this technique in many ways in almost all my classes. But I'm here to remind you, if you wanted to try that, you could. And I'll give everyone a minute to play with these steps or finish your flowers. I was working on the blues, but I had extra red on my plate, so I was showing you on the pink, not to confuse you. All right, little bit. And it's kind of good to look at your placing. What do I have extra colors of? Could I use this extra paint in any other way? Or could I make it darker to create a little bit of that depth? There's always something you can do. Awesome. Beautiful. So everyone has a beautiful array of these blue flowers. Let's connect those flowers to the earth. I'll show you how to do the goosenecks if anybody wants to try those, but then we'll work on our green leaves in the bottom, and we'll wrap it up here in the next 10 or 15 minutes. As everyone is finishing up and working on those green stems, I'm going to go ahead and capture everyone who needs something for the end of this class, or needs a recording, or let's see here. So I'm just going to highlight the chat so I don't lose it. Okay. And perfect. And also show the butterfly. It's very easy. I'll do that as well. And the other thing I'll do is I'm going to share a link in the chat. I'm looking to collect your review or your feedback from today's class. So I'll drop in a link if you're interested in leaving a review on my Google business page. I would love your feedback on how today's class went for you, and any ideas on what you might want to paint in the future. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat now. And if you wanted to click on it, it could be in your browser, ready to go. Perfect. So there's the link in the chat. And I captured everyone's email that asked the recording, so I will follow up with you after for today's recording. So I'm going to connect my little blue flowers to the earth, and then we'll pivot and transition to our green leaves as our final step. If folks are interested in the butterfly, I can do that, as well as the white goosenecks, which are really easy. I'll show you that too. We're doing good on time, so all is well. Okay, first connect these little blue flowers down. Taking our time just for these final details. And again, I encourage you, you don't need to finish your painting in the next 10-15 minutes. You can take your time and work on it later today, or keep working on it. And then you'll get the recording from me. You might be inspired to add just a couple of little green leaves, again, just like maybe I did for the pink, just to make some of these stalks look a little more natural. It's absolutely up to you. It depends on how full that you make. I'm just going to do a couple of little green leaves, kind of left, right, alternating down. I didn't do this in the last class, and I think it's nice because just when there's tall flowers like this, there's typically leaves on the stalk. So if you want, anybody wants to kind of tuck in little kind of lines as leaves, or even true leaves up top, you can. I am going to show you how to do lots of leaves at the bottom. We'll do that in one of our next steps. All right, so it gets a balance of leaves or these little stalks kind of coming in. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do these goosenecks. So they're kind of these dotted, I don't want to say a cone flower, but they're really quite cool and they're very easy. You need a clean brush. Grab the smallest brush you have, as we've continued to use in this class. And the ones that we're talking about are these kind of dotted ones, and they're going to tip to the left, tip to the right. So this is optional. I'll be the guinea pig. I'll show you what they look like. If you want to do it with me, you can. Awesome. So for me, I'm going to figure out where I want to put them. I'm going to do one over here, and this one is going to be kind of bent over, and it kind of has a little tip on the top, and I'm using little dots to find the shape. And it's going to kind of tip down just a little bit, just like a gooseneck. And it's going to bend down and over. So it's kind of a flower that's dipping a little bit. And to create the flower, I'm actually tucking it behind this one. Imagine that. You're just doing little dots, and it's going to come to a little bit of a point. Little dots to form this wispy flower. And I'm kind of keeping in mind how full I want it. It's pretty romantic. And then I might do another one over here. So again, think about placement. This one's going to go behind this blue flower. So you can think about where to layer it, what you want behind it or in front of it. You can control that. But I'm just doing little dots to fill it. And I don't need very much paint on my brush. So this adds a little bit of brightness. You could do a couple of little ones, just tiny little dots here. I might do another tiny one. So I'm also looking at the directions. So this one is tipping to the left. I might do a little one kind of going off the page over here, going to the right. Again, I'm looking for a balance of color. And it's also kind of filling in the background a little bit. It's filling in some of this darker space. If you want to, maybe I'll do a high one over here, kind of coming up behind all these flowers. And maybe it's tilting and turning a little bit. And you can kind of get a little wider as you go. This one's going to come up to be a nice kind of fine point. Doop, doop, doop. And I'm kind of going behind this, and you can do small dots to kind of fill in. You can go on top of green stalks, you can go behind, but kind of lean back in your chair and figure out, there we go, what you want. Ready? I might do a little one just kind of coming into focus over here, kind of like it's leaning in from the neighbors next door here. So again, I'm going for a balance. You don't have to do a lot of these. I think they're really pretty, but you're the artist and you're in control, so you can make some of these decisions. You may have some black space. You're like, Megan, I have to put something somewhere. I'll show you with the white paint on how to add a butterfly. So I have a nice black spot right here. I can put a white butterfly. So if anybody wants to do a butterfly, I'll show you how to do that next. I'm not going to connect these goosenecks to the ground. They're kind of just floating and kind of poking in. If you wanted to connect them in another way, you could. If you wanted to just do little kind of dots, just to kind of add in a little bit of secrecy or mystery, you can do little dots, little white dots, just to kind of show that there could be flowers back there. This is where you can kind of just have fun with some of the details. You don't need a lot of paint on your brush, but it's kind of fun just to add in a little extra flowers here and there. But I'll show you how to do the butterfly. Butterfly is really easy. I surprised myself last class on how well it came out, because I don't typically paint butterflies. Imagine that. So find a nice spot for your butterfly. And what you're going to do is you're going to do this, the right side of the butterfly first. So this is small. So I'm going to do a larger upper butterfly wing. It's kind of like a teardrop a little bit. Just the right side first. And then below it, it's a smaller kind of teardrop. So it's kind of a half a butterfly. And you could have it tilted, you could have it straight up and down, it doesn't matter. And these, the tips of the wings are a little pointy. So that's my half of my butterfly. Now we want to give the illusion like the butterfly is flying. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep, we're going to hold black space in the middle of the butterfly, like it's the body. And what we're going to do is, leaving a little bit of black space, we're going to do a line and just do like a little half of a wing right here. And I'll kind of get out of the way. See how I did just a little bit of a line right there to do like a half of a wing? That looks like it's on its side. And I left black space. And then this is going to be another little line or a half of a wing right here. And this can be connected as a single thing. So I'm going to fix this line up here comes out a little bit more. And then this one can kind of come out and round and point down a little bit. There we go. And you can kind of play with the shape a little bit. Maybe this will come out a little bit more. There we go. And maybe I fix the interior here. You can kind of reshape your elements to get it just right. And if you wanted to spin your brush, you wanted to give it two little dainty kind of antennae coming up. You could do that. Oh, mine are so dainty, you can barely see them. There we go. So that's like a side view of a butterfly. If anybody wanted to try it. You could also add some color to it too. You could make it into a purple butterfly or blue butterfly. There's actually in the inspiration, there's a blue butterfly and a white one. It could be fun to turn that into a yellow butterfly. I don't know. Let's try that. I'm gonna add a little bit of white and see if we make it into a little bit of a yellow butterfly. But we're gonna do the final leaves together next. We're right at 5:45, so right on track. Just to wrap up in a few minutes here, just to be mindful of everyone's time. I'm so glad some folks, if you have to leave, I totally understand. I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to this butterfly because, hey, why not? I encourage you, if you have a minute, to share your feedback with me on my Google business page. I would appreciate that. But again, a big thanks to AARP Vermont for bringing us together. We would not be here without them tonight. And keep an eye out on the aarp.org Vermont events page for our September classes. And be sure to send me an email with a picture of your finished product. I would love to see it.
Megan, again, thanks for doing the class. It wouldn't be the same without you either.
Oh, thank you. I love being here. You all are so much fun. We all keep coming back for more because we all love it so much. So thank you.
I love you so much. I've just come back for the second class to hear you.
Oh, cool. I'm so glad.
Thank
you? You're welcome. Thanks for coming. You should watch
Stay
both
well.
recordings. It'll be fun.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to add some really fun light green, kind of yellowy green leaves down below. So if anybody wants to do that with me, you may. I have this like teal green left over from the grass. So I want to change the color of this. I want to lighten it up a little bit. So in the last class, I mixed, I added a little bit more yellow to it. So it's a little bit more of like a lime green color. So a little bit of yellow. And play with it. You might want to add a little bit more green. You might want to add a little bit more yellow. Just try changing it to be a little bit lighter than the other. We just don't want it to be the same exact color as the grass. We want to mix it up a little bit. So I'm going to mix a color with you. Let's see how this comes out. And again, if anyone has to leave, totally understand. All right, so I have like a little bit lighter of a green. It's kind of fun. It's very similar to the color of the stems that I just did, which is fine. So one of the things you can do is on any of these stalks, you can just add some green leaves. So kind of attached to a stem, you can add some of these green leaves on the left and on the right. This is just adding more texture to the wildflowers that we're doing. So this is totally optional, but we did it in the last class, so I want to make sure I showed you. So I'm just doing some small green leaves all over. And if you want to go back and kind of do a two-toned leaf, you can. If you want to get a little crazy and put a little bit of yellow on some of these leaves, you can as an extra, a highlighter, right? We talked about adding some highlights. Yellow could be a brightener for some of these leaves. And you could be abstract. So I'm just going to come in and do some left kind of swishes and some right. And I'll bring it a little closer so you can see it. I'm kind of going from the left into the right, just creating some abstract leaves. If you don't like it, don't worry. But I think this step, the purpose of this step is just to add in a little bit of extra texture on top of the grass. If you like the way yours looks right now, don't worry about it. But I like adding just a little bit of a leaf texture on top of the grass. For me, that kind of ties it all together. And the way I'm doing these leaves are just little kind of soft curls. And I'm taking a little bit of like this yellow, and I'm doing a little bit of yellow on some of these edges too. So I'm being a little abstract. I'm coming in, adding a leaf on the right, a leaf on the left. And then I have a tiny spot of yellow, and I'm doing a little touch of yellow on either side of these leaves too. And it's okay to alternate from color to color because these colors are all going in the same place, right? Maybe come all the way down off the bottom. Be abstract, you can go quickly, you can go softly, but these kind of leaf forms are just another thin layer on top of what you've done. And yes, I will send a link of the video to you, Miss Sharon. Absolutely. I'll make sure I add you to my list. And again, a big thanks to AARP Vermont for bringing us together tonight. We would not be here without them. And I'm just slowly just adding in just some little leaves. These are abstract leaves. These are not perfectly formed leaves, to be totally clear. I'm going swooping down from the left, doing little slashing kind of brush strokes. Again, I'm being very abstract tonight. Some people, you may be one of them, just don't like the abstract. You want actual leaves. This is just the style of mine tonight. Again, I'm taking a little bit of yellow, doing a little bit of yellow highlighting on some of these leaves just to add a little bit of extra lightness. You could do like a light green if you don't want to use the yellow. But I'm just having fun. We all know what it's like at the bottom of a field. There's a lot going on, right? So for me, I'm really just solidifying the whole bottom of the painting just for it to reflect whatever you want it to be. And I'm demonstrating it just kind of an abstract way of just, you can add in leaves really wherever you wish. You can kind of look and use your eye. Well, where else may I need a leaf just to kind of fill in? Maybe you add another grass blade in between somewhere that needs another, visually you want to fill something in. You can add grass blades kind of poking up in between things. So for me, I might just do a little bit of a green grass blade just coming up right here to fill in a little bit of a spot. But the green leaves flourish our flowers, right? So I'm just doing gentle kind of brush strokes just to fill in any black spots that need a little bit of extra love. And I didn't do this with the last class, but it's good, again, to slow down to see what happens and where else you might want to add something. And I've done most of like my green and leaves, you can see all right here, except over there. So if you're looking for the difference of what it might look like to have lots of leaves along the bottom, again, I like it for the texture versus straight. You could do just straight, but I'm here to offer you variety and show you different examples as you can consider those amongst your own ideas. And again, I'm using a tiny touch of yellow just to create a little bit of visual. It's good to kind of mix one color from another. And I'm going all the way off the bottom of the page down here, just so it's nice and full and consistent. And I'm just using a little bit of green grass just to bring it up. But if you wanted to continue to add flowers, you could. This is
Megan,
yes.
what is it that you used on as the dark color of your poppies again? Red?
I
with-
used a dark red color. So what I did was I used my dark brown that I used for some of the brown behind. So I made a brown using red, yellow, and blue.
Okay.
Perfect. So I'll pause. I am going to log off in just a minute, but if you have any questions, please let me know. Again, a big thank you